Mr. A.V. Kameshwar Rao, Executive Director, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Hema Jain, Chief Executive Officer, Drugs Management Services, and she is also a former President of Hyderabad Management Association. To welcome you all to this important economic seminar, which is aimed at analyzing the Union Budget 2015-16 and exploring the opportunities for foreign direct investments in different sectors while reviewing the challenges. As there are many members who have enrolled during the present financial year, I would like to brief them about the organization. TECCI was incorporated in the year 2010 and we had to do a lot of homework to know where we are standing in trade, commerce and industry.
Yeah, I know that.
We took stock of the situation in the new state and submitted a report to the government containing our suggestions, recommendations for the improvement and implementation. We are glad to inform the members that about 84% of the suggestions and recommendations made by TECCI have been accepted by the government and they are duly reflected in the Industrial Policy 2014. TECCI has got about 2,200 direct and indirect members and about 150 companies from Hyderabad from different sectors. The Chambers of Commerce and Industry from Telangana region are the affiliated members of TECCI. Major companies like L&T Metro, GMR, Vishaka Industries, several public sector undertakings, the Spices India, Aditya Birla Group, Apidco, etc., which occupies a place of prominence on the industrial platform of the country. They are enrolled as members. We want to submit our report every month for the government on the growth of small, medium and major industries and the impediments that are being faced by the industry from April 2015 onwards. We are also planning to publish a quarterly journal in the form of a good reference book. We want the first report to be released on 2nd June during the first birthday celebrations of the new state. TECCI has established 27 committees covering all wings of trade, commerce and industry, and several experts have already been inducted into these committees. More details will be discussed after the seminar gets over with the members. Coming to the international affairs, TECCI has signed an MOU with the Turkish Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry for promotion of trade and commerce. We are working for textile park in Warangal, which may take a month or two for bringing them to a shape. While we have an understanding with Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for promotion of trade and commerce, in this process, we are organizing a joint seminars in Warangal, Karimnagar and Nizamabad districts. The first seminar will be held in Warangal on 12th of this month. The top officials of the embassy will be participating in this seminar. We have also an understanding with the Indo-Israel Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the promotion of trade and commerce, especially in the fields of information technology, cyber security and agriculture. We are happy to inform you that we have now with us as one of the members of as international members. TECCI will be signing an MOU with the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry very soon. The discussions are taking place now to find out the possibilities of promotion of trade. TECCI is closely associated with the International Chamber of Commerce. I am happy to inform you that the international organization has sent us a communication recently for recommending the names of the successful industrialists in the Telangana region for awarding their annual awards. We are glad in the veracity of this requirement. I am also extremely happy to inform you that TECCI is invited to attend the TICON. TICON is the Indus Entrepreneurs Association, which is prevalent in 17 countries with 11,000 members base. So we are invited for that, which is being conducted by the Indus Entrepreneurs on 15th and 16th of March 2015 at Santa Claus. This will be the 22nd edition of one of the largest conferences and entrepreneurs in the world. The organization was founded in 1992 at Silicon Valley by a good group of business entrepreneurs, corporate executives, and senior professionals with roots in the Indus region. TECCI has got about 11,000 members across 17 countries. TECCI's mission is to foster entrepreneurship globally through networking and education, dedicated to the virtuous cycle of wealth creation and giving back to the community. TECCI's focus on generating and nurturing our next generation of entrepreneurs. I consider this as a valuable opportunity. The CEOs of Yahoo, Google, Map, Oracle, and Satya Nadella of Microsoft were the participants in these functions. TECCI is planning to organize a trip to the place to this place to avail the exclusive benefits being provided by the tycoon for fantastic branding opportunity to the companies in Telangana. TECCI is also planning to organize the visits to Turkey in the third week of this month and Israel very soon on the invitation of their chambers of commerce and industry. So with this small report, I conclude, and all the members are requested to meet after the lunch for a detailed discussion. Thank you very much.
Productivity tool, which has had an impact on banking. Very clear aspect is seen, and the budget of JAM, which you see as Jan Dhan Yojana, the Aadhaar and mobile, being together to move into what we call a crore of people, leading to 10.5 crore people getting the subsidies and reaching to the deserving people. It has taken us to the rural connectivity. It has helped in the e-governance, wherein it is connected government to citizen, government to business, and governments to governments. Now, while I'm talking about this, everybody must be thinking, we're talking about budget. So where is mobile phones coming into picture? Here's where I think the perspective comes in for a budget. What drives growth? How would a budget impact growth to a common man, to a business person, or to every citizen of this country? For me, the growth perspectives, if I were to infrastructure, 3, agriculture. When I talk about physical infrastructure, it's very obvious. We're talking about railways, roadways, the airports, the ports, the oil and gas, the technology mechanism. But in the social sector, something neglected for too long in India, and the Indian demographic demands it to be propelled at the earliest possible in the fastest manner. What do we talk about social demographics and social infrastructure? We're talking about health and sanitation, we're talking about education. Though there has been an increase in the GDP on the health factor, but we're still a long way to be a hygienic country. Swachh Bharat would be one such move towards it, but still looks quite some distant. Look at our Indian demographic. The Economist recently carried an article, India can fly. They're betting on our demographic. But are we doing the best for the talent to come in? And this is where education comes to play a role. Education and skilling, if not done, perhaps we would end up being a country which did not see the golden era, but has become a country which is very restless and might perhaps have too much of internal strife, which would be difficult to control at one point in time. Coming to agriculture, I'm sure the experts here would take my view onto it, that today the countries, any country which has to grow, cannot be talking about comparative advantage to grow, but it should be competitive advantage of what the citizen sees as happening. We think about our Digital 2020 plan or our plans of India Vision have not been able to move to the perspective we wanted to because we failed to implement. I'm sure today's discussion will look into even that perspective of, okay, we could easily rate budget being this or budget being that, but the implementation aspect of it and therefore the impact that can be created, I think needs a little more of detailed discussion by everybody. Of course, not missing out on the fact that we need to contribute to develop it, because it's just not the government, the bureaucrats, or the people who make the policy will help in its contribution. Of course, agriculture, I was talking about, people would look at agriculture has been going down in its GDP contribution year on year, and as time passes, it will become worse. But actually, that's not true. Look at one of the policies of the government which talks about national food security. Now, how would that be achieved if you do not have enough agriculture output which can sustain the growth which we are seeing today. That's obvious that we would have to create mechanisms to improve the agricultural output, the productivity, the mechanisms which are required, the technology facilities which are required for supporting the people who are in the agriculture sector, right from cold storage, the post-harvest management. I think today, I connect back to the mobile again, and I've seen the mobile industry really grow. There was one era which we've seen grow. My company has grown with that mobile technology industry having changed, so that's something which I talk very passionately about. But for inclusive growth, I feel agriculture also needs an importance, because let's look at a farmer who's sitting, who picks out his livestock or his fish in a sea. And most often than not, it's a third man who misuses his crop and he doesn't get the best of it. But today, he's been educated enough to use a mobile phone, find the value of his stock which can be sold at a price which gives him a profit and helps in an inclusive growth rather than a profit to the end man who's a businessman and who becomes richer day by day. So I think for inclusive growth, these three sectors would become very important. The budget, of course, has various highlights to discuss about. I wouldn't want to get to dwell upon it. There are subject matter to here, would dwell upon it. And of course, we'll keep the question answer sessions open for your views, for your questions to know what should be the way it should be, or your understanding of the way the budget is being projected. But my take on the whole thing would be, I wouldn't want to rate the budget. I would look at what can it implement, how does it accelerate the growth of the vision we want to see 2020 India rather than today and tomorrow. I'm sure we'll all look from that perspective, and I'm also sure the experts will be looking at, she's changed the perspective you want to talk about, but I'm sure they are experts enough to look into that perspective, and the audience would willingly accept something which is what is it in it for me from the budget, from a business perspective, from a citizen perspective, and from a board perspective. I'll leave it here for the subject matter experts to discuss on it, and as and when the floor gets open, we will keep letting you know that the floor is open for questions. Thank you and welcome you all again for the session.
Of the economy, and that inflation was under check thanks primarily to the RBI's efforts. Let me give a brief history of how the budgeting started in India. The first budget for India was in the year 1860, presented in London for the then British provinces. It started in the year 1860. And in India, the first budget was presented by Mr. Shanmugam Chetty, and after that, we have had continuously our budgets. Budgets all over the world have certain broad criteria. First, that there must be faster development, there must be a higher rate of growth, and the economy must grow stronger, and at the same time, we should provide for an inclusive society. This has been the general feature in all budgets everywhere in the world. And in the context of India, we have to have what I think clarity about the budget. The clarity starts with the concept. Clarity of the concept, clarity of the context in which the country is placed, clarity of the communication, clarity of the content, clarity of the connectivity. All these things are important for clarity. The second important thing is, what are the goals of the economy of the country? What are the roles of individual players? What are the responsibilities that devolve on them? And what is actually, in a manner of speaking, the resources that we have got? What routes are open to us to follow? Which route are we going to follow? And what are the results that we are expecting? And if you get the results, what is the recognition and the rewards that you are going to get? These are very, very fundamental requirements of any budget. And one very important thing in the context of India is, one, no country can develop unless it is able to save a lot and that savings is invested. and that investment must give us good return in terms of the incremental capital output ratio. So it is actually the question of how much money capital you are putting in to get a return on that capital. So this is a very fundamental economic requirement. Also at the same time, there is need for controlling expenditure. And most of you from industry know that either the revenues must increase or the expenditure must come down. The same thing holds good also for a country. And the next important thing is we have to increase the planned expenditure. Unfortunately in India, 70% of the expenditure is going to the non-planned expenditure. It is only in regard to the existing administrative machinery and the maintenance of that machinery, and very little is going towards the planned expenditure. Whereas countries where the planned expenditure is much higher tend to grow faster. This is one very important thing we should have to keep in mind. The next important thing is, always we talk of three primary deficits. One is called the revenue deficit. What is your earning? What is your expenditure? The second is called the fiscal deficit, where it includes the borrowings of the government and all other costs that are actually incurred, and also the current account between what you are exporting and what you are importing. So these are very fundamental requirements, and a good government ought to see that there is a balance between the fiscal deficit in relation to the GDP, and there is also a clarity regarding actually how much will be the fiscal deficit and also the current account. And therefore, in our scheme of things, the RBI is supposed to look after the government. Government is also to care for the RBI's recommendation. So how is this balance established in a country is also very crucial for any analysis and discussion. Also at the same time, we have to continuously increase the growth of the GDP. The rate of growth of the GDP that is important. It is the rate of growth of the productivity that is very important.